I always imagined my daughter's wedding would be the happiest day of my life. The kind of day where every detail glows, where laughter and music fill the air, and where a mother's heart swells with pride. But as I stood in the back of the sunlit chapel, clutching a bouquet of white peonies, I felt a weight pressing down on me, a secret so heavy it threatened to crush the joy out of every moment. No one in that room, not even my daughter, knew that I was the sole owner of 3 beachfront properties worth over $30 million. My late husband's final gift, hidden away in a trust, locked behind layers of legal silence and my own fear. I watched my daughter, radiant in her lace gown, her eyes shining with hope and innocence. She had no idea what I was carrying, had no idea what her father had left behind, or why I'd chosen to keep it from her. I told myself it was for her own good, that she deserved a fresh start with her new husband, unburdened by the complications of sudden wealth. But as the ceremony began, I couldn't shake the feeling that my silence was a betrayal, one that might cost me her trust forever. The music swelled, and I forced a smile, but my mind raced with what ifs. What if she found out? What if someone else told her before I could? What if, in trying to protect her, I was actually pushing her away? I never expected that a single day could hold so much joy and so much fear. And I never imagined that by the end of it, everything I thought I knew about my family and myself would be turned upside down. Growing up, I never pictured myself as the keeper of secrets. I was raised in a modest home in the Midwest, where honesty was a virtue and family meant everything. My parents worked hard, and we lived simply. No beachfront vacations, no trust funds, just the steady comfort of routine and love. When I met David in college, he was different from anyone I'd ever known. He was ambitious, charming, and had a way of making even the most ordinary day feel extraordinary. We married young, built a life together from scratch, and moved to the coast when he landed a job in real estate. I thought we were just another hardworking couple chasing the American dream. Our daughter, Emily, was born a few years later. From the moment I held her, I felt a fierce, protective love I'd never known before. She was the center of our world, curious, bright, and stubborn in the best possible way. David doted on her, teaching her to swim before she could walk, reading her stories about faraway places, and promising her that one day she'd see the world. Our home was filled with laughter, the smell of pancakes on Sunday mornings, and the sound of waves crashing just beyond our backyard. To anyone looking in, we were the picture of a happy, middle-class family. But beneath the surface, David was always working, always planning for something bigger. He had a knack for spotting opportunities, and over the years, he quietly invested in properties along the coast. I knew about some of it, but not all. He'd come home late, sometimes distracted, but he always reassured me that everything he did was for us, for Emily's future. I trusted him, even when I didn't fully understand the risks he was taking. We never talked about money in front of Emily. We wanted her to grow up grounded, to value people over possessions. Then, 3 years ago, everything changed. David was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. The news hit us like a tidal wave, sudden, merciless, and impossible to prepare for. He fought bravely, but the disease moved faster than any of us could have imagined. In those final months, he became a different man, quieter, more reflective, and fiercely protective of the life he'd built for us. He called me into his study one night, his hands trembling as he handed me a folder. Inside were documents I'd never seen before: deeds, trust, agreements, letters from lawyers. That was the night I learned about the beachfront properties, the hidden fortune he'd amassed, and the instructions he'd left for me to keep it all secret, at least for now. David passed away just weeks later, leaving me with a grief so deep. I thought I'd never find my way out. Emily was devastated. She clung to me, desperate for answers I couldn't give. I told her what I thought she needed to hear: that her father loved her, that he'd done everything for us, that we would be okay. But I didn't tell her about the properties. I told myself it was what David wanted, that she was too young, too vulnerable, too newly married to handle the truth. I convinced myself that keeping this secret was an act of love. Looking back, I see how normal our life seemed on the outside, how we laughed, argued, celebrated birthdays, and mourned together. But now, with the weight of David's secret pressing on my chest, I realize how much of our story was written in the spaces between what was said and what was left unsaid. And as I watched Emily walk down the aisle, I wondered if I was protecting her or if I was just afraid of what the truth might do to us both. The morning of Emily's wedding was a blur of silk, laughter, and the clatter of high heels on hardwood floors. My sister Linda arrived early, bustling into the kitchen with her usual whirlwind energy. "You look tired, Anna," she said, eyeing me over her coffee. "Did you sleep at all last night?" I forced a smile and shrugged, blaming nerves and excitement. But the truth was, I'd barely closed my eyes. Every time I drifted off, I'd see David's face, hear his voice reminding me to keep the secret, to protect Emily at all costs. As the house filled with family, I noticed the small cracks in our perfect day. My brother-in-law Mark cornered me by the window, his tone casual, but his eyes sharp. "So, what's the plan for the house now that Emily's married? You ever think about downsizing?" He glanced out at the ocean, the same view David had loved. Beachfront property's worth a fortune these days. I laughed it off, but my heart pounded. Did he know something, or was it just idle curiosity? I excused myself, suddenly desperate for air. In the living room, Emily's soon-to-be mother-in-law Patricia was holding court, her voice carrying over the chatter. "I just hope Emily and Ryan are practical. Young couples these days, always dreaming big. They'll need to be smart with money if they want to stay afloat." She glanced at me, her smile tight. "You've always been so sensible, Anna. I'm sure you've taught Emily well." I nodded, feeling the sting of her words. Did she suspect we had more than we let on? Or was it just another backhanded compliment? Emily floated through the chaos, radiant and oblivious, but I caught moments fleeting, but telling where her smile faltered. She pulled me aside as the hairdresser pinned her veil. "Mom, is everything okay? You seem distracted." I brushed a stray curl from her forehead and lied. "Just overwhelmed, sweetheart. It's a big day." She squeezed my hand, searching my face for something I couldn't give her. I wanted to tell her everything, to unburden myself, but the words stuck in my throat as the morning wore on. The tension built in small, insidious ways. Linda made a joke about striking it rich if she ever found a way to marry into the right family. Mark laughed too loudly, and Patricia's eyes lingered on the family photos lining the hallway, her gaze calculating. Even Ryan, sweet and earnest, seemed preoccupied, checking his phone between conversations, his brow furrowed. I wondered if he was worried about money, about the future he was stepping into with my daughter. During the rehearsal lunch, the conversation turned to real estate. Mark launched into a story about a friend who'd sold a rundown cottage for a small fortune. "You never know what people are sitting on," he said, raising his glass. "Sometimes the quiet ones have the biggest secrets." The table laughed, but I felt the blood drain from my face. Emily caught my eye, her expression curious, but I looked away, focusing on the condensation sliding down my water glass. Later, as I arranged flowers in the reception hall, Linda sidled up beside me. "You know, Anna, if you ever need help managing things, I have a great financial advisor. It's a lot to handle on your own." Her tone was light, but her meaning was clear. I bristled, suddenly aware of how alone I was in this secret. I wanted to snap at her, to tell her to mind her own business. But instead, I thanked her and changed the subject. By the time the ceremony was about to begin, my nerves were frayed. Every conversation felt loaded, every glance a potential accusation. I replayed David's instructions in my mind, wondering if I was doing the right thing. Was I protecting Emily, or was I just afraid of losing control? The weight of the secret grew heavier with every passing minute, and I couldn't help but wonder how much longer could I keep this up before something or someone forced the truth into the light. The ceremony itself was flawless sunlight, streaming through stained glass, Emily and Ryan exchanging vows with trembling voices, the whole room holding its breath as they promised forever. For a brief moment, I let myself believe that everything would be all right, that the secret could stay buried a little longer. But as the sun dipped lower and the reception began, the fragile piece I'd clung to all day started to unravel. It happened during the toast. The room was buzzing with laughter and clinking glasses, the air thick with the scent of roses and champagne. Ryan's best man told a story about their college days, drawing out a round of good-natured groans. Then it was Linda's turn. She stood, glass in hand, her eyes shining with mischief and something sharper. To Emily and Ryan, she began. May your life together be as beautiful as this view, and may you always remember that sometimes the best things in life are the ones you never see coming. She paused, letting the words hang in the air. Speaking of surprises, I have to say, Anna, you've always been full of them. I mean, who would have guessed, back when we were kids, that you'd end up living in a house like this, or that? You'd manage everything so quietly. Her gaze flicked to me, and I felt the room's attention shift. Subtle, but unmistakable. You've always been the responsible one, the steady one. But I have to wonder, what else are you hiding? Up your sleeve. A ripple of laughter moved through the crowd, but I saw the way Patricia's eyes narrowed, the way Mark leaned forward, suddenly interested. Emily looked at me, her smile faltering, confusion flickering across her face. I tried to laugh it off, but my voice sounded thin, brittle. It's just a mother's love, Linda. That's all. But Linda wasn't finished. Well, whatever it is, I hope you'll share your secrets with Emily someday. After all, she deserves to know everything about her family, don't you think? The words landed like a stone in my chest. The room went quiet, the laughter dying away as everyone waited for my response. I felt the walls closing in, the weight of every unspoken word pressing down on me. My hands trembled as I set my glass down, my mind racing. I could see the questions forming in Emily's eyes, the doubt, the hurt. For a split second, I considered telling her right then and there, blurting out the truth in front of everyone, just to be free of it. But the fear was too great. Fear of ruining her day, of changing. The way she looked at me, of opening a door I couldn't close. Instead, I forced a smile and raised my glass. To Emily and Ryan, I said, my voice barely steady, may your life be filled with love, laughter, and trust. The word lingered, heavy with meaning. Moment passed, but the damage was done. I could feel the shift in the room, the unspoken questions swirling just beneath the surface. After the toasts, Emily found me in the garden, away from the noise and the prying eyes. Mom, she said quietly, is there something you're not telling me? Her voice was gentle, but there was an edge of hurt I'd never heard before. I opened my mouth, searching for the right words, but nothing came. The secret sat between us, a silent wall neither of us could climb. As the music drifted out from the reception hall, I realized that my silence had finally caught up with me. The truth was no longer just mine to carry. And as I looked into my daughter's eyes, I knew that whatever happened next would change everything for both of us. The garden was quiet except for the distant hum of music and laughter. But between Emily and me, the silence was deafening. She waited, her eyes searching mine for answers. And I felt the old urge to protect her warring with the new, raw fear of losing her trust. I reached for her hand, but she pulled away, her face clouded with confusion and hurt. Why won't you? Just tell me, Mom, she whispered, her voice trembling. Is it about Dad? Is there something I should know? The questions tumbled out, each one sharper than the last. I wanted to gather her in my arms, to reassure her like I did when she was a child. But she was no longer a little girl. She was a woman, and she deserved the truth. Before I could answer, Linda appeared at the edge of the garden, her expression a mix of concern and curiosity. Everything all right out here? She asked, her tone too casual. Emily stiffened, wiping at her eyes. We're fine, Aunt Linda, she said, her voice clipped. Linda hesitated, then retreated. But not before giving me a look that said she knew she'd struck a nerve. Back inside, the mood had shifted. Mark was at the bar talking in low tones with Patricia, both of them glancing my way when they thought I wasn't looking. I could almost hear the speculation in their voices, wondering what secrets I was hiding, what fortune might be lurking behind my quiet exterior. The warmth of the celebration had cooled, replaced by a subtle tension that seemed to ripple through every conversation. Emily's new husband, Ryan, found her by the dance floor, concern etched across his face. Is everything okay? He asked, his hand gentle on her back. Emily shook her head, her eyes shining with unshed tears. I don't know. I feel like there's something my mom isn't telling me. Something important. Ryan glanced at me, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. He'd always trusted me, always seen me as the steady anchor in Emily's life. Now I saw doubt creeping. In a wedge I'd never intended to drive between us, Linda, meanwhile, seemed energized by the drama. She flitted from group to group, dropping hints and half-truths, her words laced with just enough ambiguity to keep everyone guessing. You know, Anna, always so private. Who knows what she's got tucked away? I overheard her say to Patricia, who nodded sagely, her lips pursed in judgment. The two of them formed a quiet alliance, their curiosity feeding off each other, their whispers growing bolder as the night wore on. Mark, ever the opportunist, approached me near the dessert table. Look, Anna, if there's something going on, you know you can trust me, right? Family sticks together. His words were smooth, but his eyes were calculating. I realized then how quickly loyalty could shift, how easily love could be overshadowed by suspicion and greed. Emily, caught in the middle, grew more distant as the evening progressed. She danced with Ryan, smiled for photos, but her laughter was forced, her eyes never quite meeting mine. I watched her from across the room, my heart aching with the knowledge that my silence had built a wall between us. I saw her confide in her friends, her voice low and urgent. And I wondered what story she was telling herself about me, about her father, about her family. As the night drew to a close, the guests began to drift away, their curiosity unsatisfied, but their imaginations running wild. The house, once filled with joy and celebration, now felt cold and unfamiliar. I stood alone in the kitchen, replaying every conversation, every glance, every moment where I could have chosen honesty over fear. The secret, once a shield, had become a wedge. And as I listened to the last strains of music fade into the night, I realized that the cost of silence was far greater than I'd ever imagined. The alliances in my family had shifted, trust had been fractured, and the path forward was more uncertain than ever. But deep down, I knew that something had to change, because if I didn't find the courage to face the truth, I risked losing everything that mattered most. Asterisk, that night. After the last guest had left and the house was finally quiet, I sat alone. In the living room, the moonlight casting long shadows across the floor. My mind replayed every moment of the day, the laughter, the tension, the look in Emily's eyes when she realized I was hiding something. I felt hollow, as if the secret had carved out a space inside me that nothing else could fill. For years, I'd convinced myself that silence was a form of love, that protecting Emily from the truth was what David wanted, what any good mother would do. But now I saw the damage my silence had caused. I saw the distance in my daughter's eyes, the suspicion in my family's whispers, the way trust had begun to unravel. I thought of David, of the night he handed me the folder and asked me to keep his secret. I remembered the fear in his eyes, the love in his voice. He wanted to protect Emily from greed, from the burden of wealth, from the vultures that sometimes circle when money is involved. But he also trusted me to know when the time was right. And as I sat there, surrounded by the echoes of a day that should have been perfect, I realized that the time had come. Emily was no longer a child. She was a woman, a wife, and she deserved the truth even if it changed everything. Asterisk, the next morning, I found Emily in the kitchen, her wedding dress replaced by jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked tired, older somehow, as if the weight of the previous day had settled on her shoulders. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. "Emily, can we talk?" She hesitated, then nodded, her eyes wary but open. We sat at the table, the same table where we'd shared countless breakfasts and late-night talks. I reached for her hand, and this time she didn't pull away. "There's something I need to tell you," I began, my voice trembling. "Something I should have told you a long time ago." I told her about David's investments, about the beachfront properties, about the trust he'd left in my care. I explained why I'd kept it a secret, how I'd wanted to protect her, how I'd been afraid of what the truth might do to our family. Asterisk, as I spoke, I watched the emotions flicker across her face, shock, confusion, hurt, and finally, understanding. When I finished, there were tears in her eyes, but she squeezed my hand, her grip strong and steady. "Thank you for telling me, Mom," she whispered. "I wish you'd trusted me sooner, but I'm glad you finally did." In that moment, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The secret was no longer mine alone to carry. I didn't know what the future would hold or how this truth would reshape our family. But for the first time in years, I felt hope. I had reclaimed my voice, and with it, the possibility of healing the rift my silence had created. And as I looked at my daughter, I knew that whatever came next, we would face it together. In the days that followed, the air in our home felt lighter, as if a storm had finally passed. Emily and I spent long hours talking, sometimes quietly, sometimes through tears, but always honestly. She asked questions about her father's investments, about the years I'd spent carrying this secret alone, about the fears that had kept me silent. I answered as best I could, admitting my mistakes, sharing my regrets, and letting her see the vulnerable parts of me I'd tried so hard to hide. For the first time since David's death, I felt truly seen by my daughter, not just as her mother, but as a woman with her own doubts and scars. Our relationship began to heal, slowly at first, then with a growing sense of trust. Emily told me she understood why I'd kept the secret, even if she wished I'd chosen differently. She admitted that the idea of such wealth was overwhelming, but she was grateful to know the truth. Together, we started to talk about what the future might look like, how to honor David's legacy, how to use the properties wisely, how to protect ourselves from those who might see us only for what we had, not who we were. But not every relationship mended so easily. Linda, who had always thrived on being in the know, was hurt that I hadn't confided in her. She called less often. Her tone clipped when we did speak. Mark's curiosity turned to resentment, his offers of help now tinged with bitterness. Patricia, ever the pragmatist, became more distant, her conversations with Emily polite but guarded. I realized that some people are drawn to secrets not out of love, but out of a desire for control or advantage. The truth had set me free, but it had also revealed the fault lines in my family lines that might never fully heal. Still, there were moments of unexpected grace. Ryan, who had been so unsure, stepped up with quiet strength, supporting Emily as she processed the changes in her life. He thanked me for trusting them, for believing in their ability to handle the truth together. Emily's friends, who had sensed something was wrong, rallied around her, offering comfort and laughter when she needed it most. And I found a new sense of peace in my own heart, knowing that I had finally chosen honesty over fear. There were bittersweet days, 2 days when I missed David so much it hurt to breathe, when I wished he could see the woman our daughter had become, the strength she'd found in the face of uncertainty. But there was also pride and hope, and a quiet joy in knowing that, despite everything, we were moving forward. The secret that had once divided us had become a bridge, a way to rebuild what had been broken. As I watched Emily and Ryan settle into their new life, I realized that the greatest gift I could give my daughter wasn't wealth or security, but the truth and the freedom to shape her own future. And in choosing to share that with her, I found a measure of freedom for myself as well. Looking back, I realized how much of my life was shaped by fear of loss, fear of judgment, fear of making the wrong choice. I thought I was protecting Emily by keeping the truth from her, but in reality, I was protecting myself from the vulnerability that comes with honesty. It took nearly losing her trust to understand that love isn't about shielding those we care about from pain. It's about standing beside them even when the truth is hard. I've learned that secrets, no matter how well-intentioned, have a way of growing heavier with time. They can isolate us, turning moments of joy into quiet burdens. But I've also learned that honesty, though it may shake the ground beneath us, is the only path to real connection. By finally sharing the truth with Emily, I gave both of us the chance to heal, to rebuild, and to move forward with open hearts. Legacy isn't just about what we leave behind in bank accounts or property deeds, about the values we pass on, the courage we show in difficult moments, and the trust we build with those we love. I hope my story reminds you that your worth isn't measured by what you keep hidden, but by the strength it takes to be seen, flaws and all. If you're carrying a secret, ask yourself who you're really protecting. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone in. And if you think this story was powerful, wait until you hear what happened when my sister tried to claim her share of the inheritance, because some family lessons are only just beginning.